Working with pattern brushes. So the fundamentals of pattern brushes are basically this. Any object that you draw, you can click and drag it into the brushes palette. There we go. And tell it to make a pattern brush. And you will see that it will show you how it will repeat your original artwork. So this could be really anything that you draw. Now, if your spacing is set at 0, it creates a basic 1, 2, 3 right beside each other. If you want to change your spacing to 50%, it will give you spacing of 50% of your object, right? Say I wanted to change that to 100%. It would space out accordingly. So you'd have a full shape. If I did it 200%, you would have 2 blocks in between our original block. So that is pretty much the basics of creating a pattern brush. Now, in terms of coloring a pattern brush, you have this little pull down menu, and you've got tints, tints and shades, and hue shift, and they work in different ways. You will see that most pattern brushes that you will come across will have a fill that is gray. And the way that works is, so say I'm going to take my original shape and I'm going to fill you with a couple of gray colors. Let me open up my swatches. There we go. I've got my grayscale down here. I will create a couple little versions of my shape to create a little pattern brush. And then I will color the fill various shades of gray. Okay. So I'm going to now drag that into my brushes palette. Get that out of the way. And pattern brush, okay. And that is, again, there's no spacing in between it. If I wanted to have a spacing between my blocks, I could put in a little bit extra like that to give it a little space. For the moment, I think I'm just going to leave it 0. But I'm going to change my pull down to tints and shades. Okay. Then when I create my pattern brush, the different values of gray are reflected in the chroma of the color. So if it's a light gray, you get a lighter version of my bright red. If it's a much darker one, it gets darker. So that is very handy when you are trying to create a pattern brush that has specific colors. You can also, and colors that can be changed depending on the colors you select. You can also always go in and actually do a colored design, drag that into your pattern brush, and that will not be recolored. Okay, so if the original one is a specific set of colors, that's the color of your final pattern brush. But if you want to do one that can be recolored, again, you use the gray tones, right? And that will allow you to select your colors and change the pattern brush. Okay, so pattern brushes can be used for a whole lot of very interesting and cool things, as you can see here. Stitching, sequins, zippers are particularly useful and handy use of a pattern brush. All of your zigzags and edging trims are perfect for pattern brushes because they do not have to be drawn in stroke by stroke. Fringes, lace trim, all of these are very handy when you are creating your pattern brushes. There's some embroidery pattern brushes. Now, in terms of, as you can see, my computer is slowing down because I have so many pattern brushes in this particular document. Now, all of my cable knits, these are all pattern brushes, right? So if you don't want to have 1,000 pattern brushes open in your document at a time, you can open up pattern brush libraries by saying open brush library, and then you can tell Illustrator where you want to open up that library of brushes and use it for the drawing that you're working on that day. You can save your brushes the same way. So the brushes that you're going to create, you can save your brush library, and Illustrator will save it as a specific brush library. It won't save it as an Illustrator document. It will save it as a brush file, which you can then open up into a new Illustrator document. Okay, so that is the basics of working with pattern brushes.